cloud. Okay, so so the team assignment is straightforward. You're finding the company. Okay. Then once you have, as a team, you've decided on the company, you need to find resources for exploring it. Okay, and what are those resources? News reports. So you're looking for The Economist, Globe and Mail, Times, the corporate website, blogs that are relevant. And your job is to find and create, as a team, a whole list of resources that will help you understand that problem that the company faces. I am not looking for academic resources. That is, you're not looking for anything that is peer-reviewed. Those typically are not helpful for this kind of project. That is, when you're looking at the business environment, which is what this project is about, and business ethics, which is also what this project is about, you want to be able to get information about the problems. So the way to get information about the problems is to find news reports on the problems and identify then for your team project a list of those. I'll be posting the assignment guidelines tomorrow morning, but it's basically your team selects a company with a problem and then finds and posts to the website, posts to the course Turnitin Dropbox that I will open, a list of resources for that problem. That is, who's been reporting on it globally. It doesn't matter. It could be a national company, it could be a global company. I don't really care as long as the resources you find are in English or primarily in English. And you're going to need, I can't remember how many you need, 20 of them, something like that. But that would include company websites, relevant blog posts, and then general news reports or business news reports. So it's a relatively easy assignment. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And it should have been posted yesterday, and I don't know why I forgot to do it. But I also forgot to post the other assignment, which is the individual assignment. As you will probably find out tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow I should get the marking done. Oh, I've got to get the marking done tomorrow. If not, I'll finish it up on Thursday. But what I will be doing is marking the academic research exercise that you submitted on Monday. And then if you scored poorly on it, and in my experience, many students score very poorly on it, which is why today most of what we're going to be doing is going over that assignment. This gives you a chance to redo the assignment with new materials. So I post new materials to evaluate, and it gives you an opportunity to improve your grade. It doesn't give you an opportunity to improve your grade if you scored at least 80%. And for the redo, the maximum grade is 80% or 79%. Since it is a redo, I think those who get it right the first time around should at least get some recognition of that through the higher grade. But if you've scored less than 80%, redo the assignment with the chance to get a better grade, which is quite significant. But my concern is not with your grades. I don't care about your grades. My concern is with your skills. I want you to know what you're doing when it comes to finding good academic resources. So that is what I'm going to talk about today. So any questions on that before I explain why I care about understanding good academic resources? No questions? Okay. Oh, yes. Aman, you have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do we have any sites or some good places where we can find good informative information about the companies?
I would say use the UCW website and look for news reports, not academic. Do a Google search and see what comes up. Look for the good quality news reports from Google, not the poor quality. So Business Week, reasonably good. Economist, excellent. Globe and Mail, superb. So there's lots of good news coverage out there. So you just do a search, see what you can find. If everybody in the team does a search and tracks things down and you cross compare, you should come up with a very good list very quickly. This assignment should not take very long at all. The longer part is usually arguing over which company to look at. I've had teams get quite angry with each other over disagreeing which company they should be evaluating. But other than that, this is a quick, easy assignment.
Okay, and one more thing, you will be uploading a gist about the assignment, what we have to do.
Yes, I will be. Yeah, it should have been up there already. It should have been up there yesterday. I don't know why I forgot, but I've been really busy on some other projects and I'm a bit absent-minded. So unfortunately, it's a little delayed, but it's not a complex or difficult assignment.
Professor, so by today you'll be uploading that?
Not today, tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, Professor, thank you so much.
Yeah, very
Okay.
good afternoon, Professor.
Yes.
I had a question.
Yep.
I had a question regarding the previous assignments that we have done that you have evaluated.
Okay.
Yeah, the question about them, like you have evaluated them, and we all think we have done the good job on our part. So I would be needing a cross-reference thing, like you can guide us for the previous assignments that we had already done, how we can relate to the best, like whosoever has done the best, was able to put on the best work. We can relate with them, or you can give us the general idea about the previous assignment. How should we have done the things if we haven't done that way?
Okay, so the only assignment I've graded to this point is the mind mapping exercise. And I tried to give everyone just a line or two of information, plus the grading rubric, which breaks down the different aspects of the assignment and give you a sense of how well you did on them. So there should have been enough comment and enough guidance there to give you a general sense. I do note that class grades as a whole were stunningly high. More people scored perfect marks on that assignment than I have ever seen before. Usually it's 2 or 3 students, but I think there were 7 in this course. That's amazing. People are clearly understood for the most part, understood it. And then there were maybe another 5 or 6 who did not, and 1 or 2 who really didn't understand it. If you have specific questions, send me a note, but more than that, I really can't say. One of the problems that students face is these assignments have an infinite number of correct answers. I can't tell you which is the correct answer because there are an infinite number of them. I look for better and worse, and in terms of the quality of the work that's done, and try and evaluate them on that basis. The problem this course faces is that a lot of it is the quality of your thinking. And that's tough to evaluate. So here's how I work at it. You end up doing small assignments, and those small assignments build on top of each other so that you are building the skills to do the next assignment in the sequence. And then you get to repeat assignment frameworks and formats so that you can really develop the skills over time. Thinking is something that is not easy to do. Some students have been trained very effectively in it. That is clearly obvious to this point, and others, no, and that's pretty obvious too. And this is not untypical. So as you walk through my assignments slowly, all these little assignments, you pick up the skills, you begin to see what's going on, and it isn't hard to figure it out. And if team members wish to share with each other and chat about what worked and what did not, I think that is an excellent team activity. Students can actually learn from each other more effectively often than they can learn from me. So I do recommend that. However, I caution, do not share your assignments with each other. What we've run into is students who do that, those assignments too easily start getting distributed and then plagiarized. And the student whose work was shared is deemed by the university to be guilty, as well as the student who is copying. So you want to be very careful about how you share with other students. And the problem is it's you share with a student, but they're living with 6 other people who are reading over their shoulder, and they take the thing and copy it, and it just goes wild. So you want to be very, very careful about that. If you do share something, maybe share it as a PDF, which is harder to copy. People then would have to at least do a little bit of work on their own. So it doesn't happen every term, but often enough it happens. Somebody shares something and then somebody else copies it. That warning is should be heeded. You can talk about your work. You can review other people's work, do share screening and that kind of observation. That's excellent. You can learn a lot from each other, no problems talking about assignments, but be very careful about distributing any copies of your assignments. It isn't even necessarily the person you're sharing it with who's going to create a problem. But maybe somebody else has access to their computer and they're the one who's the real problem. Also comment when you're working in the university library, those who are on campus at all, never leave any of your documents in the library computers. That again has been a source where people have taken them, posted them to the internet, done all sorts of things with them. So always make sure you keep your documents off of any of the shared computers. Okay, any other questions I can respond to before I move on to talking about academic research? No. Okay, I think I've got everybody in now who is looking. I've got a full class. Okay, so what I want to do today is talk about academic research and how to do it well. So you've had an exercise in rating articles. I gave you a guide sheet for thinking about how to rate articles. What I want to do today is talk about selecting good articles. So what this last assignment was about 2 completely separate things. One was reading up in the field, because it gave you the opportunity to look at a series of articles in a particular subject area. And I think that's really useful. But what I was more interested in some respects, is you learning the skills to assess what is a high quality academic article. And this is something a few students know, but generally most students do not know how to do. See, you're in a graduate program, and that means your job is to start becoming critical of the academic resources you're using. Academic resources are typically peer-reviewed, but peer review means a lot of different things, and it does not necessarily mean it's a resource you can trust. That is, there's garbage that is peer-reviewed and published. Or it might not be garbage, but it might be pretty close. Or it might be really awkward and hard to understand, but it has one thing in it that got it published, and the rest of it is garbage. It's really complex stuff. Or you can have stuff which is really good at many levels, but it's out of date. Or, and this is an increasing problem, it comes from a for-profit journal. One of the things that has happened, particularly in the last 20 years, essentially since 2000, is there's been an explosion in for-profit academic journals. That is, the standard academic journal is a non-profit. That is, its point is to distribute high-quality academic resources, to peer review them and distribute them. They're typically run by universities or by high-powered publishing houses like Oxford Press or, oh goodness, Wiley. And anyway, there are a number of really high-quality publishers of academic resources. What the publishing industry has discovered is that you can make money off of academics. That is, if you charge them $1,000 or $2,000 for their article, they will happily send them to you with the cash, and then you can publish it. It's peer-reviewed, typically at a very low level, or sometimes not at all. but they look like they're peer-reviewed. So there are very low-quality publications going out there increasingly. So your job, unfortunately, as students, is increasingly to learn to discern what is good quality. So you know that you're using a good quality resource, not a poor quality resource. So that's my concern. I want you to learn how to identify good quality, how to use it effectively, and you're going to need to be able to do this to complete at least 4 of the assignments in this course. So we've got 4 assignments coming up. The first one is next week. Yes, next week, where you will be looking at, you'll have an ethics exercise, and you'll need to track down 2 high-quality academic resources to support your ethics, individual ethics assignment. It's a little assignment, kind of tough. Actually, it's not that tough, but initially students often struggle with it, but you recognize it's actually fairly easy. So that assignment requires that you know the skills to do good academic research. So I'm really concerned that you have those skills, and that's why this session, it's why the last exercise, and why you get a chance to redo the exercise, because I really want you to build the skills. Anamika, you have a question.
Yes, Professor. Just wanted to know what exactly peer review means, and how can we check an article? Is it reviewed by peer or not?
Okay, peer review. Well, here's what peer review is. Peer review means that before it was published, qualified and competent academics reviewed the article and decided whether or not it was worthy of publication. And when a peer reviewer looks at it, they can say, no, this is not worth it. They could say, yes, it is with these changes, or they can say, yeah, print it. This is good stuff. So a peer review is typically 2 scholars will go over every article that is published in a peer-reviewed journal. And they will work together or separately, generally separately, but sometimes they talk to each other to evaluate what is going on in the article and give it that peer review. Now, peer review takes place at a lot of different levels, from really intent, careful analysis. Okay, so that would be true of some peer review. Other types of peer review are much more general, along the lines of, yeah, I think it's worth publishing and we're not too worried about it. So peer review by itself doesn't tell you that it is high quality, but it does tell you that competent academics have looked at it. Now, one of the problems you face as a student is peer reviewers may decide it's worth publishing for reasons that do not make sense to you, but do make sense to them. So you can find peer-reviewed articles approved and published that don't make any sense at all to you. Does that mean that they're bad just because they're really hard to read? The answer is no, they might be excellent articles. They're not well written. Okay, but the peer reviewers thought the ideas, the evidence, the research are so good, it needs to be published, even though it is hard to read and understand. But it's worse than that. The peer reviewers could even have decided, you know, there's one piece in this article that is brilliant, that must be published. So publish it. Even though the rest, no, it's not very well done and we don't really understand it. There's a peer-reviewed article I came across, this is years ago, by a brilliant scholar. It's a terrible article. But in fact, it's not even finished. He just hit a dead end and stopped. But he's so brilliant, it was published anyway. And if you read it not as a completed article, but as the thinking process of a brilliant scholar, it's actually really interesting and worthy of being published. That is, it's his struggle with a particular question, and he didn't come up with a good answer. But the struggle itself is worth reading. So now again, we're talking about a peer-reviewed article that makes no sense. Unless you're a scholar in the field, in which case it's a brilliant piece that you're so happy it's there and it gets reprinted and published and collected in books, which in this particular case is true. That's exactly what has happened to it, even though it makes no sense. In fact, it's not a complete work. So lots of problems with peer review, but it's your starting point for academic quality. That is, it merely means scholars have read it and think it's worth publishing, but they might not have had good reasons for doing it, or they might not have reasons you understand for doing it. So peer review, vital. So how do you tell if something is peer reviewed? And the answer is, it is where it's published. That is, it's got to be published in a peer reviewing source. So that would be typically an academic journal, which typically has the title Journal, Journal of the Academy of Management. That's a peer-reviewed journal. And but it's not always easy to tell. So here's how you find peer-reviewed, and we'll look at this a little bit more in a moment. You select peer-reviewed on the university search tab, and that will bring you generally only peer-reviewed sources, which is what you want to do. And we'll be looking at it. In a little moment, I'll take us over to the library website, and we'll start exploring from there. But it's an important question. What is peer-reviewed? It means other academics have looked at it and decided it's worth looking at, worth reading, but that's not good enough to tell you that you can use it. But it tells you something. Any other questions before we proceed? No other questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is move us over to the university website, which should be there. Let's see if it'll come up. There we go. So you should now be seeing my screen, the university library search page. This is an important page, a really worthwhile. I'll let you know that if you want to ask a question, feel free. The only way I know what's going on is if you raise your hand, because my screen is really reduced here. Yeah. Okay, so you're looking for academic resource. So let me select the topic. What is a good one? You've got an ethics assignment coming up. So now you don't necessarily need to do ethics research for it, but you need to do research that will support an ethics problem. It might be something like, well, you've got an assignment you're looking at. Here would be a case that previous students did. Disney World, United States, has a problem. Its Magic Kingdom changes bird flight paths. That is, the lighting change. It's so bright that for nocturnal birds, it adjusts the way they fly, and they're getting lost, and they're flying out to sea, and birds are dying. So now you want to do good academic research on this problem. Well, one of the things you could look at is birds and flight paths. It's not a direct academic exercise in ethics, but if you don't understand bird flight paths, how will you ever understand the ethics of Walt Disney's kingdom in Florida? So then the job then becomes here in the search engine to start looking for flight paths of birds. So let's just put that in. Excuse me here. It's giving me the wrong keyboard. There we go. Let's see what happens. That's our academic search. We're trying to look for that. So we'll start there and just see what happens. $1,452, and we don't know what kind of quality they are. But let's start looking over here on the left side of the screen. You've got current search, Boolean phrase, expanders. No, we don't want to expand it. We've already got too many. Limiters, full text. That means only articles that have the full text in the library will show up. That's excellent. That's what we want to know. Okay, and then we move down. So we've got, peer-reviewed. You want that for sure. So now we've gone from 1,500 to 500 articles. Well, that's too many. Let's look at this. Peer-reviewed, next limiter from 1980 to 2022. Okay, here's a problem. Flight paths on birds. You know, the article published in 1980 might be perfectly good, but there's a very good chance it's obsolete. That is, it was the best of research in 1980, but it's been surpassed by more current research. People have gone back over the methodology and thought, no, you're confounding this, and no, we have better trackers for that. So an article from 1980 might be an excellent article, but when you're starting your search, you do not want to look at older articles, even though they might be excellent and classic. You want to start with the most recent and work backwards. So most recent. Anybody have a sense of what most recent looks like in academia? Anybody have any thoughts? How far, what kind of period should we look at that would give us a good sense of recent academic work?
10 years.
10 years? Yeah.
7 years.
5 or 7 years. Okay. I use 10. Why 10? Because it can take many years for articles to get into circulation. You know, 10 years gives you a sense of where things were, over that period. You get a bit of a better sense of the pattern in the research. You can go to 5, you can go to 3, you can go to in the last year. In some subjects, you may want to do that. If, for example, you were looking at leadership ethics, I might start with the most recent 2 years. Not a lot of people are publishing in that area. So let's start with the most recent. For a general search, though, I immediately go, let's use 10 years, more or less. And so we select 10 years as our limiter, more or less. So now I want to draw your attention to something. Note how we went to only 10 years and we have 2/3 of the total. We had for over, 40 years, there were 500 articles. For 10 years, there are 348. You notice the pattern there. There has been an exponential growth in the number of academic articles being produced. The sheer number keeps climbing. As I think the number is, as much academic knowledge has been produced in the last 10 years as in all of human history before that. That gives you a sense of the extraordinary growth rate. And the thing is, that was true of the 10 years before that and the 10 years before that. When I started graduate school, about 1980, the typical process then was your instructor would open you up and say, here are the 10 people you need to read in for this seminar. Once you've read their work, you know everything there is to know in this field. Nobody in their right mind says that anymore. We don't know. We literally have no idea what good quality material has been produced unless we are following it really closely all the time. And then we'll tell you, okay, look at this, look at that. It's like my book resource list for this course really should be fully updated every year, which means I should do a topic search all the way through looking for what has been produced in the last year that should be added to the list. I don't do that. It's just too much work. But that's how rapidly the fields shift. It is, there's so much material being produced that no one can keep up, and it gets worse every year. So that means it's more important for me to teach you how to find good material and stay up on good quality material than it is to tell you who you should be reading, because quite literally, I don't know. I can tell you in a few fields that I watch very closely, I have a pretty good idea who you should be reading, but there might have been something new published in the last couple of years that's excellent by people I've never heard of. So we have to keep looking. And unfortunately, every year there's more to look through. Okay, so we've got 348 items. If I were doing research, I would look through all 348 items. I have a PhD. I do research that's publication quality. You don't have PhDs, you're not doing research that's publication quality. You do not want to be looking through 348 items because that is likely going to take you hours of work. Okay, graduate research. For my assignments, here's what the time frame should be. You should spend no more than 20 minutes finding your articles. And none of you believe me. You will. But 20 minutes is all it should take you. If it's taking you longer, you are doing too much work. So I want to teach you how to do it quickly. Okay? How to get to the good stuff without spending forever to do so. You want to spend your time thinking and writing. You do not want to spend your time doing research. So first thing is topics. Do not look for nice, tiny topics in your searches. You're not going to find, you will spend forever. So if your problem is Coca-Cola waste problems, well, actually Coca-Cola's waste problems, you probably could find something coming up. But say you've got a company you're looking at, say you're looking at Bombardier and you're looking at its ethical problems with its railways. Okay, Bombardier, major Canadian aerospace corporation, heavy into rail transport, has got bribery allegations against it in a number of countries. So you're interested, you want to know, I'm going to do some academic research on Bombardier and its ethics. So you type in Bombardier and ethics and you get nothing back. So you keep looking and you keep looking. And guess what? There are no academic articles on Bombardier and its ethics. It's not a big enough global player to have any articles about it. You have to think sideways. You have to think in the bigger picture. You have to think in terms of what is supporting information that would be relevant. Notice here, what have we got as our search? Flight paths of birds. What are we interested in? The ethical problems of Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom and its problems, or Disney World and its light problems. That's in Florida. Sorry, not Magic Kingdom, but the Disney World in Florida, which has problems with light diverting birds. That's what's in the news. It's there. So we want to find out what. We want to know about how to understand Disney World. First job, find out about flight paths of birds. And here we go. We've got 348 recent articles on flight paths related to birds. And we do not want goodness. So how do we reduce this? Too many to look through. So let's go to advanced search. Advanced search is where I recommend you go as quickly as possible. It's typically where I do all of my research. And let's call this subject terms, flight paths of birds. And let's take a risk and let's try Florida. Who knows? We might even get something that tells us a little bit about the Disney World. So now we do a search using, let's call that a, do we want it as a subject term? No, we're just going to leave it as an open field. And let's go and see what we get. And no results at all. So clearly Disney World is not going to show up because it's in Florida. So that's not going to get us anything about Disney World, but we still want to find out about flight paths of birds. We want migratory birds. Because it's migratory birds that seem to have the most problem. At least that's what the news report said. So let's look at migration. Migration as a subject term. Oops, that. Migration, subject term. Question?
Why don't we directly write Disney World?
Well, for two reasons. One of which is we're trying to understand the larger issues. Another is we probably won't find anything. So let's just, we'll put Disney World in here too. Okay. And we're just going to leave that wide open. See if anybody comes up with anything related to it. So now we're looking for, notice we're looking for and. That is, we're looking for articles that have all three of these. These two are subject terms, and this is anything where in any part of the text it will show up. And let's see what we get. No results found. So let's delete the Disney World. Okay. I'll just advise you, in my course, it is wise never to search when you're doing academic search to include the name of the company you're interested in. That typically will take you to a very bad place. Mostly that means no place at all. But the other bad place it'll take you to is thinking you now understand the issue when you in fact haven't done the research. As soon as you get a hit that includes your company, you've got somebody else's point of view. It might be very well done, very thoughtful, but it's not going to expand your knowledge significantly over other things. And plus, it's probably going to be significantly out of date. That's not helpful. You want to do original research. You want to dig into the field. I mean, Disney World is what we're concerned about, but don't we need to understand flight paths of birds and their migration? So let's see what we can get. Nothing. Okay. So flight paths of birds might include migration. Okay. So what do we want to do? Oh, let's look at light sources. Okay, so because that's one of the problems, let's see if we can get something that looks at light sources. Again, no. Okay, so let's change this from, come on, stop that. Subject terms to alt text. Just broadening things out gives us more opportunities. We'll go there. Okay, we are not getting anything. I'm going to try something else. And so this is how I'm trying to keep my search as quick and tidy. I'm trying to reduce it to, well, now we're back up to 515. See, that's too many to look through. I want it down to like 5 or 6. That gives me a really nice, easy to sort group. But okay, so I'm having troubles. I'm getting frustrated. I'm coming up on my 20-minute time lane that Professor Hebert tells me I need to hit. Okay, so we're just going to give up. We're going to stop searching and go with what we've got. And we're going to start off looking at anything. We don't care. This is one of my hints and tricks for how to do good academic research. Don't care so much about your topic. Care more about finding high quality sources. So I'm running out of time. I'm just going to say, okay, I don't care. I don't know what this is about. It says academic journal, so full text, oops, peer reviewed. Somehow we missed peer reviewed. It jumped out. 437 peer-reviewed articles. Okay, first one on my list is this one. I'm just going to take a look at it and decide. I think this might be the one. I don't care if it's on topic or not. I'm running out of time. I'm a graduate student. I'm rushed. I've got 2 other courses and I've got assignments all due tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to focus on it. Let's decide, is this a high-quality academic source? Okay. Note, I don't care about the topic. I just want to know, is it a high quality academic source? So here we go. I clicked on the title and I'm getting things. Okay. So the source is Landscape Ecology. Okay. Could be a decent journal. It's supposed to be peer reviewed. 2021. Oh, it's nice and recent. Volume 36. Okay. This is an interesting number. Volume number doesn't tell you a lot, but it should mean that this journal has been published for 36 years. That's a good sign. That is, it's been around long enough that it has kind of got a good institutional base. It is publishing quality materials that are getting enough recognition. Yeah, it's a good sign. Now here it tells you how many pages, 11 pages. Okay, what do you think of 11 pages as an academic, good quality article? One thing I know about students is they like to select short articles rather than long articles. It's not a good practice. 11 pages, put it this way, if you have anything at all to say academically, 10 pages is about the absolute minimum. 15 pages is more likely to get you into that range. 20 pages is pretty much the standard length for any good quality academic article that has real research in it. It just takes 20 pages to really work it through. If it's an in-depth study with lots of research, look at 25. Now, the publisher doesn't want to publish more than 25. So you're rare that you're going to find one that's longer than 25 pages. But they do happen. I have one in one of my collections at 35 pages. It is detailed. It's actually the core of a book. So 11 pages. Oh, goodness, that's right on the boundary. It's in. I'll count that as reasonably good academic source. So far, I'm looking at reasonable academic sources. Okay, subject terms, don't care about. Geographic terms, I really don't care. Let's look at the abstract and see if I just push up the size a little here. Always read the abstract. I'm going to have trouble here because I have this other screen in the way. Dump it and see what happens. Okay. Okay, so let's look at this abstract for this article. All we're concerned about is it high quality. So looking through, skimming. This looks pretty good. Notice what they're doing here. They're telling them about the study, what they did. They've identified their methods. They've got their results carefully outlined. They've even got their conclusion carefully stated. One of the things you'll note when you start reading abstracts is a lot of them do not tell you what the article concludes. That is, they're written as an introduction to the article. They're not really an abstract of the article. A good abstract tells you everything that is in the article in very brief form, including method and conclusions. But there are lots of very bad abstracts. So a good abstract, though, is a good sign that we're looking at a good quality source. And this looks like a good quality abstract. Now note, the abstract is from the author. What do you think of that? If I'm the author and I'm writing the abstract, what am I trying to accomplish? What I'm trying to accomplish is I want you to read the article. That is, I'm going to skip over problems. I'm going to kind of stick with the interesting stuff. I want to encourage you to read the article rather than say, hey, these guys really didn't know what they're talking about, and it's kind of a stupid article. So as an author, I'm always trying to pick out the most intriguing points for the abstract. Sometimes abstracts are written by the editors, but generally they're written by the author, partly because they're a lot of work to write, and editors hate doing that. The problem is authors only really want you to read the article, and they don't care if their abstract is any good. So it's a trade-off, but generally they're from the author. Okay, so this tells me, yeah, this looks like a good article. Looks like they've done their work, and it's well described. So I'm going, okay, sounds pretty good. Author affiliations, okay. So author affiliations are often useful. And because I don't read Spanish, I don't really know what they're looking at, but they look kind of significant. National, department, the National History Group. Okay, but here's the problem. Author affiliations do not tell you it is a good article. You can have superb institutions with terrible researchers. And you can have excellent researchers who work for terrible institutions or no institution at all. So again, it doesn't tell you that it's good quality, but again, I look at this and I go, oh, cumulatively, this looks like good quality. Database. Okay. Now, what it hasn't told me is who published the journal. I like to know who publishes the journal. So I could click on this and that would tell me what type of journal it is, where it's going from. But I have a different approach because often it shows up in the PDF version. So I'm going to click on PDF. And why am I clicking on PDF? I'm clicking on the PDF because so far, everything is telling me this looks like a reasonably good academic article. Okay. But I don't know for sure. Only way you are ever going to know for sure, and this is really important to think about, the only way if you know it's genuinely of high quality is to read the article. Until you've done that, you can't. That is, everything we've looked at so far in terms of our search has told us this is probably a good article, but remember, it's on the short side. That's a caution here. So we need to look at the article itself to decide if it's good quality. So that's what we do next. Note that I use the PDF version. Don't have to. But PDF versions are usually taken as the standard version. They're not easy to modify the way an HTML document is. So you just typically, you cite and work from the PDF version. Also, one of the things I strongly advise students to do is download a copy. If you've got this far, download a copy, store it away in your computer. Why? Because even if you don't use it for this exercise, there is a chance later on you'll come up with something in your brain will go, I read that article. I think it's relevant to what I'm working at. And if you haven't downloaded it, you might never, ever be able to find it again. That is, you don't remember enough. Or I had one article, it took me, I simply do not understand how academic databases work, because I had the title and I could not find it under a title search. I also had the journal and I couldn't. And so what I did is I found the journal, found the year, found the table of contents, and that is how I got back to that article. Wouldn't it have been better if I just downloaded it in the first place? Because they can be just terribly hard to find, particularly if you haven't actually identified what the article is. So you just tuck it away, and now you know that somewhere in your collection, if your brain ever goes boing, that would be useful to know, you've got it stored away. I have thousands of articles stored away in my computer, all carefully categorized as to subject, and then title referenced, because will I ever look at them again? Don't know. But this way I know if it ever comes up in another source, or I'm thinking, well, what was that article? I know I've got it there somewhere, and I can just do a search in my computer, and odds are I can find it, as opposed to trying to go back to the library at the universities and then doing it through that. Now, the other thing I note with that is I don't normally search using the UCW library. I have access to the Simon Fraser University Library, and it is much bigger. These databases cost a fortune. And if it's not a gigantic university like Simon Fraser University, UCW only buys basic subscriptions, not the full advanced packages that SFU or UBC do, which means literally there are lots of articles out there that may be relevant, whole journals that are relevant that you can't get through the UCW library. For the most part, it's a good enough library, and I'm not particularly worried about it for anything in my courses. But if you ever want to do a PhD, you need a better library than UCW has. So, but the other thing is you might come across an article and you're going, I would really like that, but UCW can't get it for me. And then it's really helpful to have a friend at UBC or SFU or one of the other big universities, and you send them an email and you say, this is the article, can you get me a copy? And they will get it for you. Well, if they're good friends, they'll just, they'll click download and email it to you. So it's good to think in those broader terms, but recognize you're just working with what UCW's got, and that should be good enough. Although I'll note, so leadership is an area where I've stopped doing research. I'm just too busy with other areas. I might get back to it. One of my favorite journals in the leadership field is called Leadership Quarterly. It has a lot of cutting edge research and authors in it. It's not available through the UCW library. It is available through the SFU library. So, you know, there is possible that you're going to come across a subject matter or a topic where, you know, there really is good material at another library. Well, in which case, you know, but that would be for if you're working on your final project and you're looking at research, yeah, you would want to dig into Leadership Quarterly. But short of that, no, there's a lot of good material in the UCW library as it is. Not everything, but a lot of good stuff. Anyway, back to our artificial light at night as a driver of urban colonization by an avian predator. Okay, so looking at it, published by Springer Nature, very high quality academic publisher. Now we've just learned that this is a high quality journal. Doesn't mean it's a high quality article, but one of our questions has now been answered. High quality journal. Okay, now we're back to the abstract. Okay, where does it go? Okay, let's see. So wait, let's get that. Let's push that up. So we're just now going to scan through it because that is how we do it. Okay. And I'll give you some more advice. Here's my Bruce Hebert advice on academic reading. Never read anything, not a textbook, not an article. It's just too much time. It's too hard. You skim, you scan, you do not read. And you certainly do not get a dictionary out and try and figure out what the words mean. Now, you just slowed yourself down so far. And I think I sent out an email. The improvement in understanding that you get for slowing down, reading carefully, and doing all of that research is not that great. That is, your brain is really good at putting together a fundamental, basic understanding just from skimming through an article. But better, if you skim through an article, you don't get hung up on the stuff you don't understand that causes you confusion and will stop you from actually using an article. You do not have to understand an article to use it effectively and accurately. Now, you probably don't believe me at that, but it's true and you'll figure it out. And I'm going to try and show you how you do that with this article. So I'm just skimming through, they're talking about their methods, their results. That's part of the abstract. Okay, so then now abstract. Okay, now introduction. There we go. So we look at, here's the introduction over here, and it goes over to here on this second column. And note, look at this, lots of citations. This is a good sign of high quality academic work. It's demonstrating they've done their reading. Now, do I know who these people are? Nope. They might have been not the best kind of sources, but all I know is they have done their reading and they have, going back to 1983. So these people really have done their reading in the field. Lots of articles identified. It's a literature review. It tells you that they've done their research. They know what they're talking about. They've studied in the field. Okay, and now there's more description of what they're looking at there. We move on to methods. It's clarity. Oh, I love this. Clarity about their methods. I skipped over the next column. I'm just skimming through invertebrate diet. Okay, how they worked with that. Oh no, look at this. A formula, and I have no idea what it is or what the whatever Notsky index is. So what do? I have a choice. I can either try and figure out what that index is, or I can say, well, I don't really know. I don't care. I'm not a scholar in the field. They would know. They would follow that, but I'm not. Am I going to get hung up on it? Absolutely not. I can't comprehend what they're talking about. Yeah, if I spent enough time, I've got enough of a calculus background, I could probably figure out what this equation means. But why bother? I'm not going to. So I'm just going to skip past. Okay, so there's their explanation of it. Very nice. Then we continue on. GPS. Oh, I look at this methodology. GPS logging. You know, this project, statistical, now they're talking about this statistical analysis type, generalized linear mixed models. I have no clue what that type of method is. I'm not a statistician. I work with statistics, but I'm not a statistician, and that's a huge difference. A statistician can figure things out that me, working with very basic statistics, I can't. I can guess at, but that's the best I can do. Anyway, okay, to study, they did this. Okay, this is what they did. Results. Okay. I'm interested in results. Not I'm skipping over pretty much everything else. Here they have bunch of data. Who cares about the numbers? The numbers tell you that they've done quantitative research. That's generally a very good thing. Qualitative research can be very useful, but it's more subject to bias and interpretation than is quantitative. Not that quantitative isn't subject to bias and interpretation as well. It is. That is, I've worked enough with statistics. I know data is kind of what you make of it. And as somebody who creates, I'm working right now, I've got a major project going. Two of us are creating a statistical model of a multi-generational process in human behavior. We have worked for months trying to find out what are the key indicators and then how to organize the data in an effective way. I think we're there. I think we're there. But it's been months. And I know we've taken data. One of our key statistics turns out to be a non-statistic. But it took us a good month of analysis to realize that the number, which looked really significant, didn't actually mean anything at all. So again, as you look at these numbers and go, well, we hope that they know what they're talking about. At least they're using quantitative analysis. Theoretically, it means we should be able to go back and duplicate that analysis. Which brings up another point. Good academic research, you should be able to read it as a scholar, that is somebody like me, and figure out if it can be replicated. That is the data sound? Is that a good methodology? Was the underlying structure of the work well done? And if you have questions, you should be able to go to the people who put it together and say, excuse me, this number doesn't look right. Explain this number, and they should be able to give it to you. And then you're going to say, no, that doesn't look like a correct summary of the data the way I've understood. Give me your data set. I want to redo your analyses. And they should send you their data set so that you can redo the analysis. That is, that's what academic research is about. That is, we're about knowledge, not about keeping information private, not about building reputations. We're about building high quality knowledge. And that means, so for example, my research on the multi-generational process, I have a database of 3,500 people. Somebody could come up to me and say, you know, your model doesn't make any sense. I want to rerun all those calculations. Give me your data set. And then I'll give them my data set. I don't particularly want to. It took me years to accumulate that data set. It's a lot of hard work. But if they have serious questions about how I generated and whether or not those results can be duplicated, I need to send them my data set so they can redo the calculations. Theoretically, they will find exactly the same answers I found. And if not, then we can talk about why they didn't. But that's the academic process. That's the academic community at work. So that's what's behind a good quality academic article, like ideally this one is. Okay, continuing to look, oh, look at this. We've got charts and diagrams. Underlight, control, underlight. I love these because they tell me things look like they're different. I assume those lines mean some box plots, whatever they are. Interesting, whatever. Nesting habitat, productivity. This is really good. Oh, even a photograph of where they were doing their testing. Oh, it's lovely. Now, discussion. This is where it gets interesting. A study indicates that burrowing owls are reported for other owl species. Look at this. So our initial question was about Disney World in Florida. Then here, look at what they're talking about. Sensory disturbance of a space using time. See, these are the types of things that modify space. They've got noise. What about light? Richness, owls, they avoid noise. Raptors. So we've got, just following along here, look at how they've looked at it in terms of the larger issues. Okay. Moreover, owls prefer nesting close to streetlights, right here at the conclusion. Perhaps reducing commuting costs and predation. That's okay. The lights overcomes urban threats, at least a fraction genetic pool of the burrowing owl. Oh, that's lovely. They did a nice job here. This is a little bit of a limiter statement saying this is, they don't want to make sure, they don't want to assume that every owl on the planet is following this pattern. No, they just want to say this particular group that they studied followed this pattern. Just wise. Acknowledgments, it's interesting who supported them, author contributions. All data analyzed from this study are included in the article and supplementary French files and digital repository. Good. Ethical standards, interest, ethical approval. Okay. Okay, this is good stuff. This all indicates a really high quality academic article. Last thing to check are the references. And, oh, look at this. 2 full pages of academic references. That is a good sign. Doesn't again tell you that it's a high quality academic resource, but it's indicative again that they've done their research and it is a high quality source. Okay. So we've skimmed and scanned through this article. We don't understand the research methodology particularly or the formulas that they've used, but whatever we've looked at looks like this is a perhaps short, but otherwise excellent quality academic resource. Okay, so what do you do with it? I'm going to stop sharing and we can now talk to each other, but just walk through. I just arbitrarily chose an article and decided, yes, this is a high quality academic research article related to somehow my topic. Not particularly closely, perhaps, but there it is. So what do you think of that? Is it a high quality academic article? So everybody agree with that? Anybody have trouble understanding that process of finding a high quality academic article? So the process is, you start a subject search, you pick something, anything that's even remotely close. Remember, 20 minutes maximum to find, for my assignments, 2 high quality academic resources. So you want to do this twice in 20 minutes. I think this is a high quality academic source. I think you should use it. Okay, now comes the really hard part. You've decided you're desperate. It's 20 minutes now till the assignment has due. You've got to get it done. You've got this article. Your topic is, because of your team's assignment, you've selected Disney World and its light pollution as your core problem that you're evaluating. Are you going to use this article? Or are you going to go back and search for another? Any thoughts on that? Going to use it? And then if you're going to use it, how would you use it? That's the question. Any thoughts? Anyone have any ideas about how? Lena?
In my opinion, the first thing that you have to do is have an idea. What do you want to express? What do you want to search about? And have a brainstorming with your team. And after it, no.
No, you don't want to talk to your team at all. You don't want to brainstorm. You do not want to plan.
No,
But
but if you
because
don't plan, maybe you find things that you don't have to express. In this case, this is a good article.
it's a
But
good article.
maybe you find something that you don't need.
Well, no, you see, this is where it gets tricky. You are MBA students. Your job is to be efficient. And that means efficient with your core resource, your time. So now that you have found it, you see, here's the problem. If you are very topic focused, you're going to go, I don't see any connection between this and Disney World. Now, you got to go find another good article. But an efficient MBA student says, no, my job is to see what connection I can make between this and my assignment. And maybe I rewrite the assignment to fit the research. That is, exactly. Take the research and build the assignment around the research. Don't think you have to find, see, this is the problem. If you have to follow a topic, you're going to spend a long time doing a lot of research. Hours and hours. I can spend a whole day in the SFU library very easily and only find like 2 or 3 articles that are worth doing. But I'm trying to be exhaustive. I mean, I'm writing books. I'm writing articles for publication. That's okay. That's my job. You're busy MBA students. Your job is to graduate as quickly as possible with a reasonable mark. Remember, you're not trying for an A. This is not about getting an A. Nobody in the right mind wants an A. In an MBA program, you should look at everybody who gets an A and go, not too bright, are they? Okay. The really bright ones get a B+. They work just hard enough to get a B+. That's it. Then they're done. So that's all you're trying for, B+. And that means good technical quality to your work, reasonable thoughtfulness, reasonable application, not brilliant, not right on. Yeah, you don't need that. Yeah. So I think you should use this article for Disney World. How would you do that? This is tricky. I admit that. It takes some thinking here to get into the mode of thinking, I'm going to work with what I've got. I'm not going to keep looking for what's better. Gideon.
I'm thinking if we could just look for key statements in the article that either supports or dissupport our statement that the topic statements, and then build from that foundation.
Okay. So so our interest is in Disney World, and that's still the team selected Disney World, and it's light pollution. That is the problem we've got. Is there a way of what kind of key statements would you find in this article about owls and predation around streetlights?
We're looking for noise, lights.
Okay.
Something along that.
Right. Okay. You got it. You're thinking right. Looking for issues, noise and lights.
That affects birds that Disney World has.
That's right. Now notice I don't understand that article except for a couple of points. So again, what are the key points? Key points are streetlights attract bugs. Bugs attract predator birds. That's about it. So how would you use that to talk about Disney World and light pollution? Think. A little bit of creativity involved here, but the creativity will save you hours of work.
Research about Disney World. What do they have?
No, you don't want to do any more research. You've been given the topic. Your team is demanding it. Nope, it's your individual assignment and it's due, whatever. You got to get it done now. What is the connection? How are you going to write it up? What is your key point? The key point that you're going to draw that is going to say, hey, I did my real research that is helpful for our team project on this research on Disney World. With that.
Can I try my chance?
Sure.
So like this research just give you a pattern that like the behavior of the bird.
Great.
And then you can link that to the way that maybe Disney World would solve the problem. So
No. Don't want to solve the problem.
Okay, right. So you see the pattern from this research.
Okay.
And then,
so what is the pattern?
so let's say birds and bugs are related. I'm not.
Yes, exactly.
And then,
Birds
and then-
and bugs and light are related.
and then you can say that, okay, here's the factors. There's bugs, there's birds, and there are lights. So in order for you to operate a system, you have to consider these three factors.
Oh, I love it. Yes, exactly. And right there, that's your conclusion. You now, and look at that. Your conclusion is you have to consider these three factors. You've got real research that says these are three real factors in how birds perform. So which means that you can report to your study group, to your team, hey, for the Disney World problem, bugs, light, predators, they've got to be taken into account. And that's it. That is a sound academic conclusion to your research. Yes, keep going. Good.
No, that's it. That's all I have. Like,
Okay.
we've got the main key factors and that's it.
That's it. See, that's one of the critical pieces here in using research is you don't use the whole article. You don't care. I don't even understand the whole article. But I do understand that they found real connection, a sound connection that they're prepared to say for their owls in their location, lights, bugs, owls are connected. That means you now have really sound scientific evidence for talking about Disney World and saying, hey, the light suggests bugs will be altered and gather around light. That will change the way predator birds are behaving around light. And that means that bird patterns are being changed by the light. Done. Done. That's it. Or probably being, you just be really academic and qualify and say probably being, because who knows? Maybe they use a frequency that bugs aren't affected by. Who knows? I don't. But it's that simple. You see what I did? Now you turn in your assignment and you get a B for it. And you go, excellent. I did practically no work and I got a B. I am a good MBA student. Maybe you got a B plus because you wrote it well and you had good references and citation. You threw in a thoughtful little bit. Yeah, okay, B plus, excellent. Or maybe your professor thought this was really interesting the way you put it together and you even got an A. Then you go, oh goodness, maybe I could have done it with less work. You see where I'm going with this? Once you know what good quality academic research is, you can then draw just itty bitty little points out of it and go, this is good enough. I know it's based on sound research. But here's what happens with a lot of students is they start looking out for just whatever's out there. They do a Google search. Please, no Google searches for academic material. Google Scholar, stay away from it. It's not bad. It just doesn't help you the way working with the UCW library does. That is, UCW library has all these beautiful little limiters and it's well organized. You can get copies. Whereas Google Scholar, half the time, you can't get a copy of it. Or actually 90% of the time, you can't get a copy of the article. It might be a perfect article, but you can't get a copy. As opposed to everything in the UCW library, if it says full text, it's there. You can get a copy. You can skim it through so you know what's going on. So the whole point here is, once you've got that, it's just find what's there, not because it's what you want, but because it's a real resource. Once it's good quality academics, it is a real resource. And then it's a matter of imagination, how to use it effectively. And you can use almost anything effectively. You do not have to understand it. I mean, there are words in there, I have a clue what they are. Did I look for a dictionary to understand them? Nope. Did that help me? Would it have helped me if I'd known the whatever factor formula? Nah, not unless I'm an expert in the field and I would go, oh, but they use that formula. No, we did this research 5 years ago that said that's not a good formula. We have a better one. Okay, but that's academics arguing amongst themselves. That's not your problem. You just need to know it is a sound article, well developed academically, not on your topic particularly. That is, you were started off with migratory birds. Yeah, we couldn't find anything on migratory birds, at least not quickly. But we did find one on light and predation. Well, good, and birds, good enough. Run with it. 20 minutes to do all of your research, find your articles, and then you can spend some time thinking about how it applies. Rather than spending 6 hours, as students will often tell me, oh, I spent 6 hours in the library trying to find some articles on my topic. I'm going, well, you just wasted 5 hours and 40 minutes. Do you have 5 hours and 40 minutes to waste? I would be much happier if you spent that 5 hours and 40 minutes thinking about how it can apply and then writing it up. So I'm on your side here. Well, yeah, I'm on your side, but you're going to have to work to figure this out. But once you've got the method down, you will save unbelievable amount of hours. You'll actually end up doing better writing and better thinking because you know you're working with sound materials. That's the whole point. You will be working with very sound materials. So run with it, apply it. Lita.
Sorry, got a question. So let's say that like we do like in this session, like we practice with one research. Let's say I did read 3 research and then like they have contradict information. And when it comes to deduction process, like how are we going to evaluate like which one should be prioritized over which other one?
Excellent question. How would you prioritize?
Should it be based on peer reviews or should it be based on, you know, having more research back it up? But it could be the possibility this one research is the original research and other people doing the same research just to have the same conclusion. So how do we evaluate that?
Okay, so the simple answer is you don't. If you find contradictory research, you simply say, this source says this, and this source says that. And you're done. You see, the issue is you're not qualified to evaluate them. That's people like me. In our field, we evaluate, and that's my job. That's part of what I do as an academic scholar in the field. I read things, I think about them, I compare them, and I assess. Well, no, this one, it's like, no, they use that formula for evaluating bird distributions. No, we've got a better one. Okay, I know that because I've been involved. I've read their research. I can evaluate it. How do you know as an introductory student? The answer is you haven't a clue. You don't know what the basis is. I mean, that's for the scholars to argue about. All you need to know is a high quality academic journal published it. That means it's peer reviewed. It fits the standard that you need to depend on. It doesn't mean it's right. This is one of the problems in academic research. Just because it fits the standard does not mean it's correct, but it's the best you've got. You run with the best you've got. And then if you really get hooked on it, you decide, I think this needs more work. I'm going to do a PhD in the field. And you start reading everything. And by the time you've finished your master's, you've read so much in the field, you have a pretty good idea of what is right and what's wrong. And you're now ready to propose a doctoral project and apply for a PhD. So your research, your final MBA research project, and I strongly recommend, you've got lots of options in the program. If at all possible, do the research option. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to explore. Don't worry about the size of the project. It really isn't that relevant. It just gives you that opportunity to dig into something, a company, a process, an issue, a topic, and really dig into it. So you will actually know by the time you've done your research project, you should be really thinking at a pre-doctoral level in that area. If you do any of the other exit options for your MBA program, you don't get that opportunity. I think it's worth it. If at all, your interests run to research, do that. Now, if you're a good MBA student, you look for the easiest way to get through your degree program and get your degree. But I'm not a good MBA student. I'm a horrid academic who loves to study. So I strongly recommend it. And you'll find that having done my course, you're better trained to actually do that level of research. A key part of your doctoral, your research project is finding good sources, quite a list of them. So it's helpful to know what you're looking at, and my course will help you with that. But regardless, I want you to learn to work with this, because I think even in business, so one of my points is, and you'll see this in the exercises that you'll start doing next week. One of my points is, as an MBA student, you should be able to contribute to your employer good quality specific research. So your employer might say, hey, we've been contracted with Disney Corporation to help them out with their light problem. Now, you're just a junior researcher, you're newly hired. Go do some research, help us out here. And you should be able to do good, basic research that in a timely manner gets results back. You're not going to be paid to do exhaustive research. That is, exhaustive research costs on any small project between $30,000 and $60,000 worth of labor. And they're going to give you, it's effectively maybe $2,000 worth of labor. Doesn't match. So you can't do it. But you can at least go and find some basic academic resources and know what you're talking about. That's all you need to do. And that's exactly what my exercises prepare you to be able to do. You'll see that. They're all about constructing basic business reports using good academic resources. My concern, I'll just comment here. Well, my concern throughout this course is that you build the skills to be good business people. I know what I had to do. I know what management is about. I want you to be the best possible folk in the field that are a credit to the university, a credit to your abilities, a credit to the degree. So my concern is, how do you do this work in such a way that you can efficiently, effectively, and with great efficacy, the other E, complete your work. So this is an important part of that, learning how to think through what you've got in front of you, not looking forever. If you go back, I'm doing a project now, a research project for a First Nations group, and they like me and they don't like me. I do really high quality research really cheaply, but I keep asking doctoral quality questions and they don't want those. They want me to keep coming up with simple answers and simple responses. So, it's kind of an argument back and forth, but I'll tell you this, they don't give me a lot of money to do the research. The budget for this, for the health analysis of 3 communities, is $15,000. I cannot go very far. I mean, just to get a good statistical analysis of the data would cost me another $15,000. They haven't got it. They're not going to get it. So they want me to give them simple, basic, straightforward results written up in a way that they can trust. So that's what we do. Can't give them everything that they would like to know. I'm looking at it. I said, look, if you can get more money, I said, there is so much more information here. And they laugh. It's like, they haven't got more money. That's it. This is the business budget. This is it. Done. Once you've run out, once you've spent the money, we're out. Then if you want to do more work on your own for free, feel free. But I'm contracting with them, and they've only got so much money. And so I have to give them the best quality within that framework. It's not exhaustive. I know there's more. I know that there are questions that are good questions I haven't even begun to answer. So I'm trying to train you in that process of, you run with what you've got. You do it as quickly and effectively as you can. And surprisingly, a lot of the time you can do some really good work on the basis of really not a lot of research. If you think it through from the application of the research approach rather than the find everything out about the topic. Finding things out about the topic takes forever. Applying research, now it doesn't take very long. So that's the shift I want you to make. And that's what this whole exercise I've been taking you through today is about. It's about shifting perspective to I just selected, I didn't even look at the list of articles to see if there was one within that, whatever, 300 that might be appropriate. There might have been one that was exactly on topic. I didn't bother. It took me too much time. I just grabbed the first one handy, ran with that, made sure it was of good academic quality, and it was. They aren't always, but that one was, and then tried to figure out, well, how do I use it? Done. And my research is done quickly. Is my instructor likely to say, hey, you know, there was a better article out there? The answer is not very likely. How many instructors have time to know that field? The answer is bird migration. If there's any instructor at UCW who knows anything at all about bird migration, it's their hobby. It's not because that's part of their academic core. They have not spent the time looking at it. So it's not like all of a sudden you're going to, your prof is going to say, oh, goodness, you know, there was a better article and you should have found it. No, they're going to say, oh, that was an effective application of the research. And they're going to trust that you did effective academic research. So you see where I'm going with this, where I'm trying the mindset about how to use your resources. Why I stress what is a good quality academic resource. Because as soon as you've got it, your job is effectively done. That's what we academics, the PhD people, are about, is creating those kind of resources. So we want you to know how to use them, work with them effectively. And stop wasting your time doing topical research that takes forever and doesn't necessarily even then answer your question. Because one of the other problems you're going to face is it doesn't take much to find that no one has written anything relevant to your topic. Research is hard to do, it's very expensive, and the number of research topics that are potential is infinite. So can you always find an article on your topic, even remotely close to your topic? And the answer is often you cannot. So you're better off not trying. Too many hours of work to find it. Instead, run with what you can find quickly. 20 minutes maximum for your research. Okay, questions on what I've done. So we've got about 15 minutes left. That would allow us not enough time to do much of anything more. So thoughts on that? I'm curious how that relates to what you did on your academic research exercise, whether or not this answers questions you had about the methods and how you approached them. Okay, can I tell you, sorry, any questions on that? Because there's more I can talk about, but if there's any questions, this is a really good point to bring up your questions. Okay, none. So let's clear our minds of that. I'm going to go back to thinking about good quality academic research and talk about some of the mistakes people make in thinking about good quality academic research. Okay. So I am not certain which version I gave you of my academic research exercise. I've got like 3 or 4 of them, 5 of them, and I just pick one each term. I rotate them from term to term, but they often have trick sources in there, sources that look highly academic but aren't, and sources that are highly academic but don't look like it. That is, my goal with that exercise is to really make you think about what is good quality academic work. So one of the things I typically do is I have popular or popular-ish article by a top quality academic. Why? Because I want you to notice that top quality academics will always often write materials which are not of that academic quality. That is, they want to get their ideas out there. They want to write them for other sources. They'll summarize research. Then that is not a high quality academic resource. That is, that they're a top scholar, but it's not a high quality academic research. Doesn't mean it's not good stuff. It doesn't mean it isn't accurate and useful. It's just not a high quality academic source. So the author might be a top scholar, but that does not by itself make it a good quality source. Another one is, oh goodness, citations. A lot of students do something I tell you not to do, which is they look up how many times an article has been cited and use that as a guide to whether or not it's high quality academic source. It's typically a very bad thing to do. Why? Any ideas why citation, number of times an article is cited, is not an indication of academic quality? Anamika.
In my opinion, Professor, number of time it is cited, it displays that the author have taken only the content from the previous article and not the research he has done on him, like on himself, like by himself or herself.
Well, okay, well, I'm not sure quite on what I'm talking about. The number of times an article is cited is like, if I write an article on a topic, say business ethics, and one person cites me, that is, they've read it and included it in their list of references, does that mean it's a terrible article? Or does that mean it's a superb article, but nobody knows about it, but except that other scholar? That's the issue of citations, is other people using it. Alexander.
So I made that sin in one of those articles. So I looked up and saw that it was kind of average in the number of times cited. But of course, I made the commentary that this is not a gold standard, and because this is a relatively recent research, the time for it to generate an impact into the research market, is to say, times it didn't mature enough to that point.
See, and that is exactly, it's a superb point. If it's just came out, how can it be cited very often? It might be an amazingly good article, but hasn't been around long enough to accumulate citations. Okay. So time is an issue. A really key article published 20 years ago might have a lot of citations. Everybody refers to it in the field. But there might be better research out there. But it was one of those pioneering works. Again, so many citations doesn't tell you. There's also one, I don't know, did I have the J. Forrester article in this series? I can't remember, but there's one, anyway, maybe it'll be in the end. There's an article by J. Forrester in one of my assignments, which has been cited like 20-some thousand times. It's just an extraordinarily cited article. The problem with it is it's not an academic article. It isn't. Forrester is a brilliant academic, and it's a summary of his work that he published in a semi-academic source. So everybody goes to it to cite it because they want a review of his work. Forrester's brilliant. There's no question. The man is just amazingly brilliant. But this is not an actual academic article that's being cited. So the citation rate, 20-some thousand citations, the scholar, brilliant, well-regarded, again, but the article is not a high-quality academic source. It's a really interesting problem. Citations doesn't necessarily tell you whether or not it's an academic source. They just tell you whether or not has been used a lot over a period of time. Brilliant current scholars won't have it done. Academic sources might not get much reading, but that doesn't mean they aren't excellent. Oh, here's another one, Harvard Business Review. Anybody know about the Harvard Business Review? Is it an academic source or not? Yeah, the answer is no, it is not. Harvard Business Review is not an academic source. It's a popular magazine. It's a pretty good quality one. I have nothing against it. It runs excellent articles by excellent people. But they're not writing academic materials. They're writing popular versions of their academic work. So again, it is often they're summaries, often they're insightful, sometimes they're brilliant, sometimes they're not, but they're not academic. That's the critical thing. They can be good, but they're not academic. Another one that gets caught, I know I use it somewhere, is in the McKinsey Quarterly. Anybody know McKinsey Company? Massive business consulting firm, do some extraordinary consulting work, and they have their own in-house journal, which publishes some pretty good stuff. But it's not academic. It's good stuff, often. They have some really high quality people working for them, but that doesn't mean it's an academic journal. It's not. So you can see that there's good material and academic material, and they are not exactly necessarily the same thing. And the issue is, for what you're doing in the master's program, you want to use academic materials and know that you're using them, and then use other materials too, but know that they're not of academic quality. They may be very useful. They may be insightful. But you have to be careful how you're using them because they're not academic research. Kind of tricky stuff. But you'll have it figured out before this course is done. You have to. The grades depend on it. Got about 5 minutes left. Any last questions? So that's what I just want. This is tricky stuff. If your head is buzzing, don't worry about it. If you didn't do well on your assignment, don't worry about it. I'll just say I have a terrible approach to academic education. It's actually excellent pedagogy, which is I give you the problem and then I tell you the solution. You learn far faster if we do it that way than if I tell you the solution and then give you the problem. So, couple minutes left. I guess I don't know if you've got the background noise, but there's a mower working outside here. Any last questions or thoughts before we're done for today? Dominica.
Professor, just wanted to ask, you'll open the Turnitin again to resubmit our assignments?
Oh yes, there'll be a new Turnitin box. There'll actually be a new assignment and with a new Turnitin Dropbox, and it should have been posted. And I'm sorry, I've been neglectful. Anyway, I'm just busy and sometimes forget things. And unfortunately, I forgot your assignments, but I'll get them up there. I hope.
So you'll open it in week 3 or week 2?
It'll be in week. It'll be in week 3.
Week 3.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anyway.
Can I ask about the pestle analysis?
Yes. Pestle analysis is where we're moving to starting in week 5, 6. So what that is it's a kind of environmental analysis. You look at different components. So the P is for political and then ecological. The other one is economic, social, which is social cultural, technological. So you're looking at these factors, and simply a handy tool, Word, that allows you to keep track of what are the tools you're going to use to evaluate the environment around the business. It came out of marketing. Actually, it's marketing people who developed the tool, but it turns out to be a much more powerful tool. It's great for strategic planning. I strongly recommend a pestle analysis as the foundation for any strategic planning that you do. Initially, this course had a strategic planning component to it. That was the last version. They took it out because it's just too much, and the strategy was not being well taught. But pestle analysis is foundation to doing a SWOT analysis and then a strategic plan. It's just how do you look at the world around you and collect the data that you need. That's all it is. So we'll be doing that. That's essentially what the team project is. So what you'll be doing is a team project that's a pestle analysis, and then you'll be doing supporting individual projects that look at pieces of the pestle analysis that you, as a team, you will put together collectively or as use as resource for the bigger project. So the last half of this course, everything individual and team works together. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure, quickly. Yes.
Okay, so this is about the research assignment. I think what I struggled with was is there a rank for the points that we're checking? Because what I find is sometimes you pass the peer review test, you pass the dating test, but something else doesn't match up, and then it feels like it's not a good quality material. When it says when it's peer reviewed, or if it's like a recent article, it has like a strong case. How do you rank what is most important? Is it the content that's most important? Is it what the peer review looks like? How do you rank? I don't know if there's a rank or anything.
Well, ranking is a little bit tricky. So I ask you to, in the assignment, to rank them. Now, and then the way I grade it, I actually grade your ranking, but I give you a lot of latitude. That is, I give you full marks if you're within 1 point of what I think is accurate. I give you half marks if you're within 2 points of it. That gives you a lot of flexibility. And there's some good reasons for the way you would want to rank it. And yes, so you started with peer reviewed. Okay, that's important. Yeah, authors, yeah, that's important. Ultimately, you want to make sure that the content is good too. And, but typically, so my recommendation is always skim through, look at the list of references. I always look at the references. That for me is one of those key points for understanding or using an article, often because I find the references more interesting than the article. But again, that's an academic reading. I'm more interested in who they read and how they used it than I am in the article. Often, again, this is a secret. Often academics misuse other academics' work. So I want to know about that. If you're working on a PhD and somebody quotes something, you actually have to go backtrack that quote to its origin and find out if it's used accurately. There's one of my favorite scholars, Jonathan Haidt, quotes another scholar, Roy Rappaport, as if Roy Rappaport is making a point, except if you've read Roy Rappaport, as I have, you realize that Haidt is actually saying the opposite of what Rappaport is actually carefully trying to articulate. That is, Rappaport is saying A, and Jonathan Haidt quotes Rappaport as if he's saying not A. It's that stark, the difference. So I have to go back. That's one of the things we do as academics is we go back and check all of the quotes, make sure they're being interpreted appropriately. So I'm really interested in references, really interested in citations, where they're coming from, how they're being used, because that tells me a lot. Haidt is brilliant, but he's just totally distorts things from time to time. So you can't trust him, which I find really frustrating. He's brilliant, but heads off in his own direction and avoids the evidence from time to time. Not alone in that. I try and read him for where he's got great insights, and the man knows more about libertarian politics and thought than I think anybody else on the planet. He's brilliant, but when he's trying to integrate it into larger scale psychosocial theory, he does a terrible job. Okay, so it's like knows more than anybody else about part A, and he makes a mess of part B. That's too bad. But that's my job to know that. Yours is you read them and you go, "Wow, this is amazing. This is brilliant." Just be careful. Always be careful. That's what I'm trying to teach. Be careful. Anyway, we are out of time for today. I'll be posting a recording of this and it'll have the video. This is the only session I include the video because video takes a lot of space and Zoom charges fees for how much data you use up. So I will be posting it. Plus there's a YouTube version of a previous class session posted there, which I hope you had a chance to take a look at, which you can also look at. So I'll give you another sample of this basic process. Okay, so good to see you again. Next week's session should be really interesting. And the week after, mind-boggling. We're into some really interesting stuff. We're getting into ethics now, and I love it. And I think there's so much there to think about and to learn about. Unfortunately, it's only a little bit of this course, but that's where we're going. Okay.
Okay.
All the best then.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Professor, thank you for your
Thank you.
session.
Bye-bye.
Wonderful discussion. Thank you,
Good.
Professor.
Glad it was helpful. I hope it's really helpful.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.